I'm going to win the Champions League by only signing free agents. And to do so, I've taken over as the manager of Ajax, who in real life are struggling right now. And we start this in Season 1, where in 6 months' time, a former Premier League legend is running out of contract, and I want him to come back to Ajax. Which of course might give you a slight idea of who that player could potentially be. But before we introduce him, let's take a look at the current squad in Season 1 and the setup. Day 1 and I realise I am the loneliest man ever, as there is no other staff member at the club outside of a club doctor. Once we sorted that out, we were looking at a rather underwhelming squad of players compared to years gone by at Ajax, with only the likes of Kenneth Taylor and Yuri Bass, who are the young Dutch players that spent a good time coming through their iconic youth system. Mika Götze is another talent from Belgium that Ajax brought into the club a few seasons ago that is definitely worth building the team around. And I was so unsure with the squad in Season 1, I experimented to begin with on a crazy setup using an overlapping right-sided centre-back, 2 wide forwards, a free role and a false 9. To be honest, I was looking at this Ajax squad and I couldn't really see the strengths and where we were really going to try and compete in this league, because there's some really good teams. One of those teams being a young AZ Alkmaar side who beat us 1-0. And we were certainly struggling in Season 1 after just 11 games and needed some early reinforcements. That's where the first signing of the challenge came in, returning to Ajax 15 years after he left for Liverpool. Luis Suarez, age 38, joins the club on a free transfer. By this point, we had already tried multiple systems and was currently trialing a double false 9-4-4-2 tactic. And the switch did improve our form slightly, and Luis Suarez was happy to be back in Amsterdam, where he scored on his debut. But with us going into January, this of course is when we can search for potential new free transfers at the end of the season, because if they are not playing in our current country and they are with 6 months within their contract expiring, we could already approach them. And I had already planned ahead for this to happen with multiple recruitment focuses, where they are solely scouting and looking for players within the last year of their contract. This was a good decision, because come January, my scouts had already identified multiple players who would be a great first team asset according to their scout reports. There were some players who weren't quite ready to talk to me just yet, but I added them to my shortlist. However, we did manage to get 3 players over the line by the end of January. First off is Yves Bissouma from Spurs, a quality defensive midfielder, 29 years of age, so can still play for at least a couple of seasons. Mies Hilgers is going to be a good backup centre-back. Plus, he's coming from like a Dutch homegrown international type of thing. I know he's Indonesian, but he's part Dutch too, coming from the FC20 Youth Academy, a very good player who's used to this league. And finally, we got Valentin Carboni, who is a natural player in 2 different positions that we can definitely utilise next season. Plus, he's only 20 years of age, and I think this might be the best of the 3. Before then, however, we need to make the most out of this season that we are currently in. In the knockout playoff round of the Champions League, we were embarrassed by Celtic, unfortunately, as we lost both legs and taken a disappointing early exit. And in the Dutch Cup, we were quite unfortunate against a very good Feyenoord side who beat us 2-0 in the semi-final. There was some positive signs though, as although PSV ran away with the Eredivisie title, we hung on to the likes of Feyenoord in the league and recovered the bad start we had. And a win on the final day of the season bumped us above Feyenoord to sit in 2nd place, but some way behind PSV. Right now though, looking at our team, Oscar Gluck was our biggest performer in terms of goal contributions with 31, but again, he's more of an attacking midfielder. We've got the likes of Steven Berghuis, he hasn't really done a lot. Mika Götze, who we of course mentioned earlier, has developed well, and he's still only 20. We still need to look to bed him into the team. Kenneth Taylor's had a good season, as has the likes of Sean Stour, who is only 18. Maybe we look to bring him into it a little bit more. But Luis Suarez, disappointingly, after playing 16 games, got 4 goals and 4 assists, which isn't too bad, but he did pick up quite a few injuries and unfortunately missed the last part of the season. We did make another signing throughout the season in Kota, who is a Japanese left midfielder from Japan. He left FC Tokyo in January and unfortunately never found a club, but fortunately for us, class meant that we could sign him on a free transfer, and in just 5 appearances, he got a goal and assist, but is mainly coming off the bench. But this is once again a chance for us to take a look at some of the free transfers, because there are some big names here, even if some of them are not considered to be interested in joining us. The likes of Mark Gehi, Quentin Timber, even Adamola Lookman could all become available as free transfers if they decide not to go elsewhere. So there was an air of optimism with all these fantastic players available, but on the outs, Kasper Dolberg left for Al Hilal for 13 million. Ruben Neves came the other way from Al Hilal after his contract ran out at the Saudi club, and he joins on just 60 grand a week on a 3-year deal. Sebastiano Esposito was on my shortlist, which you might have seen, and we got that deal done after 8 different loan spells while at Inter Milan. The final signing was Bento, as we don't have a great goalkeeper option, and he could become our new number 1 this season. With all of these new signings coming through the door, we have once again switched around the tactic. We are looking here at sort of a 3-2-2-3 formation. We got false nines and 2 wide forwards, so we're still sort of utilizing that false 9 because Carboni looks to be a really good false 9 option. When we go out of possession, the wide forwards actually drop back into tracking wingers, and the 2 centre midfielders actually go up but as tracking attacking midfielders, keeping the high press but also keeping sort of a good shape, and obviously if a team attacks us down the wings, we should be a little bit more secure. Basuma and Neves drop easily into those 2 defensive midfielder options. Obviously Carboni's in the side, and Bento actually sits in our starting 11 as well. And this system seemed to really suit our new squad for Season 2. The fluidity of movement and the short tiki-taka style passing it around the box worked really well, with Carboni dropping into the false 9 role. There were some great performances in Europe too, as we opened teams up, keeping hold of the ball well, and even against the best teams in the Netherlands, such as PSV, who we defeated in Eindhoven 1-0, we had 61% of the possession. We were flying in the league, unbeaten and 8 points clear, with PSV down in 8th place and AZ and Feyenoord in 5th and 4th. AZ had knocked us out of the cup, however. As we got to January though, it was straight on to the player market and browsing through all the players whose contracts were expiring in June, with some really good players who would be interested right now. When I changed the filter to players who wouldn't be interested, there was Ousmane Diomande, and even though my assistant didn't think he would want to come, we were still able to offer a contract which he accepted. And by the end of January, 3 players including Diomande and Nick Pope were joining on free transfers, as well as Zvonarek, who from Bayern Munich is a cracking midfielder. Outside of suffering a loss to PSV and a draw to Feyenoord, we were still doing well in the Eredivisie, sitting top of the league. But a loss to Roma in the round of 16 crushed our Champions League hopes for season number 2. We finished the season really strong, scoring 14 goals in our last 3 games without conceding a single goal ourselves, and went on to lift the Eredivisie for the first time in 5 years. Ahead of AZ Alkmaar in 2nd place by 10 points too, after only losing 3 matches. Now the board have given us £37 million to spend, but of course we're not going to spend any of that. And the players that we have coming in, I think, very much complement the players that we've already got. Kenneth Taylor was actually our top scorer, which is kind of hilarious. He's coming from that sort of attacking centre midfield spot. And Carboni, who was playing that false 9 role for the majority of the season, did miss quite a lot of the season because of injuries, was second with 16 and 11, dropping in from that false 9. Out on the wings, Mika Gertz was really good. Raul Mora was okay. Kota played quite a lot of games, which I think was obviously helping his development, being a 23-year-old player who doesn't naturally play higher up, but I think he's definitely done quite well. I'm interested to see the players that we can also pick up on top of the ones we've already got, because there's a lot of options coming in who are out of contract at the end of this season, the likes of Jack Grealish potentially, but even if we're going on not considered right now, there's even more players, the likes of Matoma, Grimaldo, maybe even a Harry Kane. A player I was so unsure about selling but eventually caved was Sivert Mansverk, who again went to Saudi Arabia but with Al Ittihad for 33 million. Davy Classy was another one who went for 1.3 million. We didn't manage to pick up any of the other free transfer players that was available whose contracts were running out, the likes of Harry Kane, etc. So it's just the 3 that did come in, and to be honest, 2 of them have gone straight into the team already, and Zvonarek I think potentially could nail down this Fitzjim position here, and that's what we might see towards by sort of the halfway point of next season. So I'm interested really to see how this sort of system now plays out when we've got, I think, a better team in there, because last season we did quite well. The false nine I'm still unsure with, however, we've been quite successful with it, and Carboni is a very good player who drops deep and then obviously has good passing range. So this season, another league title, potentially we could see how well we do in the Champions League. This season started very well with 5 wins from our opening 5 fixtures, but that's where it all started to crumble in a way, and we hit really inconsistent form going into October through to December. The highlight being Kenneth Taylor, who from midfield has scored 15 goals with 10 assists in 25 games. Even still, with our bad run, we were in second place, 5 points behind PSV however. Season 3 is where some of the best players could potentially become available for us at the end of their contracts, should they want to join Ajax. On top of my list was a striker, and luckily we have 2 coming in, as Kolo Muani from PSG agreed to join us at the end of the season. Not only that, but we have Andre Santos from Chelsea, who is a fantastic midfield option, Josh Sargent, who's the other striker option for us, and finally, for now anyway, Ander Astralaga, who will join us as another backup goalkeeper. We had a terrible time in the Champions League this season, being knocked out in the league phase, and after being eliminated from the second round of the Dutch Cup, the league title was our only hope for this season. And we were still chasing PSV, being 4 points behind them with 7 games remaining. But with some big wins, we caught them up and went level on points and top just through goal difference to the final day of the season. But as has been with the whole of season number 3, it wasn't as easy as that. And on that final day of the season, we lost 2-0 to NAC Breda and unfortunately lost the league title because of this. As much as I like our tiki-taka style of play, do think a change or two is needed next season with the new players coming in, and we can't keep expecting Kenneth Taylor to be our top scorer if we want to win the Champions League. July 1st seen us sell both Fitzjim and Oscar Gluck to Saudi clubs, while we ended up bringing in 9 free transfers, with El Kunis being extra alongside Samu in midfield, Zanotti at right back, Justin Kluivert on the wings, which is a nice affiliation to Ajax because of his dad to bring back 10 years later after he left the club, and Anthony Robinson for left wing back. That's right, we were going to switch up the 3 at the back system with fullbacks coming into the club, and instead we dropped into a classic 4-3-3 in and out of possession and using an advanced centre-back in Diamonde with 2 wide forwards yet again. And the early signs were good as we qualified for the Champions League, defeating Celtic and Lyon in the League Path playoff, while also winning our first 4 league fixtures, including a 2-1 victory over Feyenoord on the opening day, with another Kolo Muani goal. The new signings were all combining well in fact, and in the new 4-3-3 system we were having our best season yet as Ajax manager. 9 points clear at the top of the league and flying in the Eredivisie by the turn of the new year. And it was at this point when we looked into the transfer market to see who was popping up out of contract the next 6 months, and signed our best player yet. Because not only did we sign Ederson in what could be his final season of professional football, but we also signed a 25-year-old Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace, who I can't wait to integrate into this Ajax team. We were doing well this season, but NEC knocked us out of the semi-final of the Dutch Cup with a 2-1 defeat. In the Champions League, however, we got through the knockout playoff round with 2 wins over Lazio and have even beaten Bayern Munich 4-2 in the first leg of the round of 16. But the league was a big positive as Utrecht was in second place and still 8 points behind us, with PSV having another terrible season down in 11th place. With a 2-1 second leg win over Bayern Munich in the Champions League, we go through to the quarterfinals where it's a match against PSG next to contend with. A 1-0 loss in Paris though wasn't the end of the world as we were much stronger in Amsterdam. And it was an incredible back and forth tie where PSG took the lead early, doubling their aggregate advantage. We finally got on the score sheet in the match and pushed on from there to eventually equalise and make it 2-2. The game itself was much more entertaining than the first leg, but for the neutral unfortunately, as PSG scored another 2 goals to go 3-2 up on the night, 4-2 on aggregate, and all we could do was find a third on the night and we bow out of the competition at the quarter-final stage. In that time too, we had been very sloppy in the league and our big advantage had been shortened by just 3 points with 3 games remaining. With the Champions League out the way though, we solely focused on these games and we ended up with a 9-0 and a 7-0 win to make sure we got the job done. 2 massive wins, secure the title by 4 points ahead of AZ. Alkmaar has done really well. PSV all the way down in 7th place, which is rather mental. So we have had a great season and our free transfers have definitely done the business. Kolo Muani with 32 goals and 10 assists this season. Justin Kluivert, 22 and 29. Somehow Kenneth Taylor's still doing really well, 22 and 18, which is rather mental. But even like the players like Andre Santos and El Kunis has done fantastic. The numbers that we're putting up here are unbelievable. We're scoring so many goals. Attacking wise, they are all doing the job. Defensively, in other competitions, maybe we need to improve that. In the league, yeah, but in the Champions League, we conceded too many goals. That's what cost us. There were other big names in the free agency list of players about to run out of contract and definitely some options that I would love to bring to Ajax. But outside of the names we had already agreed to bring to the club, midfield Danois was another very talented player who joined, as well as Alvaro Rodriguez, who gave us a good strong option up front. And we continue to make the club a lot of money by selling Samu to Saudi Arabian side Al Ahly a year after signing him on a free transfer, and our bank balance is now at Ajax looking really super healthy.
Nice.
It was looking good on the pitch too as we started the season well, defeating PSV in the second match, but it was AZ Alkmaar again who has been stepping up as our big rivals this season, and the team we're trying to overcome in the Eredivisie. As it's neck and neck with them at the halfway point of the season, with Feyenoord also lurking. Some great players are now 6 months away from their contracts expiring too, including Ethan Nwaneri, and much to my shock, he was willing to talk to us already and agree a contract in principle. In fact, him and Boubacar Kamara both agreed to join my Ajax side at the end of the season on a free transfer. Yet again, we played NEC in the Dutch Cup semi-final, and this time we managed to win the tie and reach the final, only just beating them with an extra time goal. But again, like last season, we also faced Bayern Munich in the round of 16 for the second season in a row, and this time they were far too strong for us, knocking us out and beating us in both legs. With the points level in the league between us and AZ Alkmaar, it would still make for an interesting end to Season 5. Disaster in the cup final though, as Mika Götze missed the first penalty of the shootout, and as it went all the way to the end, where our opponents on the night, Utrecht, did not miss a single penalty, and they won the Dutch Cup. And the drop-off continued in the league as AZ Alkmaar pull away by 5 points. 3 massive wins to the end of the season gave us a slight chance of a miracle ending, and AZ Alkmaar, they screwed up. Because after beating PSV, they lost and drew their last 2 games, meaning we somehow win the league on goals scored because our points and goal difference was exactly the same. Completely undeserved Eredivisie title, but we'll take it nonetheless. This squad is unbelievable. We're just getting quite unlucky, I think, in the Champions League. Real Madrid and Barcelona are in the finals now. It's going to take some doing to defeat one of them. We need that little bit of luck. Kolo Muani has been unbelievable. 35 goals this season, 16 and 24 for Kenneth Taylor, who's still doing really well. Mika Götze has got 14 and 18. He is classed as technically our best player. So there's so many good options for us now in the side. Diamonde is obviously a cracking defender that we've got alongside him. We've got Shatalo still there. Maybe we need a better centre-back because there's lots of options that we are getting through as the obviously the players who are coming under their contracts expiring. Just not a lot of defenders coming up. The only other signing we brought in with Nwaneri and Kamara was Esteve, who is a natural left-sided centre-back. But I am happy with the side and sticking with the system, and you should stick with this channel too and subscribe if you haven't done so already. You got this far after all, it's free, and nearly 40% if you haven't subscribed yet. Makes sense to do so right now as we completely destroyed PSV at the start of the season 5-0 away from home. This was a sign of things to come for the first half of the season as we went unbeaten with only AZ Alkmaar ahead of us after they played a game more. There were so many targets this January with 6 months left on their contract, including the likes of Santiago Castro, who could be a serious weapon for us in Season 7, as well as Desiree Doué too. At that point, however, we weren't having much luck with finding players who actually wanted to join us like we did in previous Januaries. After knocking out AC Milan in the knockout playoffs in the Champions League, we had been given a difficult tie against Liverpool next, but a 5-2 first leg win followed by a 0-0 draw put us into the quarter-finals, where it was Marseille who awaited us. Meanwhile in the league, we have dropped off recently after some bad results, and that bad form continued in France as we put up a fight but lost in the first leg 3-2 and have it all to do when we come back to the Netherlands. But after a hot start in Amsterdam, Marseille pulled it back level on aggregate to make it 3-2 on the night, taking the game to extra time, where we finally got the job done in the final minute of the match before a penalty shootout, and we are in the semi-finals. We also managed to get to the Dutch Cup final, and after a few failed attempts in previous 5 seasons, we finally got the job done and defeat PSV to lift the trophy by 2-1. We have once again dropped down in the Eredivisie after having our worst season yet in the league. But to be fair to us, our sole focus has been on the UEFA Champions League, and we've got a big enough squad to almost fully rotate for league games and rest players, and that's what's helped us, as we completely destroy Manchester City in the first leg 4-1 to give us such a good shot at making the final. And with the second leg finishing 1-1, we are just one game away from completing our goal of winning the Champions League with only 3 agents. And Arsenal is our opponents to beat in that final. Before that, 3 league wins to finish the season, seeing us salvage a 3rd place finish and 4 points behind Feyenoord and AZ Alkmaar, who claimed the league title. But I'm sure all would be forgotten in terms of the board if we managed to lift the Champions League trophy for the first time in nearly 40 years. After a rough start, it was Arsenal who, however, found the back of the net first, and only 20 minutes on the clock when Martinelli's strike went in. It stayed 1-0 until the second half, where we finally got on the score sheet with a patient attack that ended up going down the left-hand side and a perfect cutback for Kolo Muani. 1-1 after 120 minutes though, and it's a penalty shootout with Ajax up first, and Kenneth Taylor, of course, scores. Next was Bukayo Saka, but Bento made an incredible save, which kept us ahead until the former Arsenal player Nwaneri missed 2 penalties later. From then on, multiple penalties was scored as it looked like the shootout might go on for a little while, as both keepers came close but couldn't keep one out. That was until after Robinson's was smashed in, and up stepped Calafiori for Arsenal, and Bento made the most important save of his life. And in 6 seasons, we have done it. We have transformed Ajax using only 3 transfers and gone on and won the Champions League. 4 league titles as well, 1 Dutch Cup. I think we've done an excellent job here in Amsterdam. But let me know if you want to see any more challenges like this. And if you do, you need to make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss it. On screen right now, though, is another challenge that me and my dad is taking up. The Glory Hunter Challenge. The first one to win 5 trophies across Europe in the league and then the cups, as well as this Champions League and Europa League. Episode 1 is on screen right now.